All right, welcome one and all to another magnificent Tuesday. Looks like we have at least one in the chat. Hello, Lily Fields. Thank you for joining us today. We
Hello,
have our
hello.
our usual crowd rocking it with us. Black Knight, how you doing today, brother?
I'm uh I'm okay. Recovering. Um
Yeah,
Managed to somehow managed to write a good tanker poem today earlier, and just now published um another chapter of the Hamsterkin
nice,
short.
nice.
Yeah. And I reconnected with a friend, an old friend, which we haven't like touched base in like over a year.
Oh, wow.
So that was
Oh,
good.
nice, nice.
Um, and since our magnanimous, in quotation marks, magnanimous government is not doing their, I mean, they're doing their job, but when it suits them. Um, I cannot use the Substack monetization, so I was forced
Yikes.
to, yeah, I can't, but it doesn't work. I mean, I can try to lie the system, like cheat the system, and use like a um, service to fake my IP and say that I'm not from my country but from another country. But that's dangerous because I can lose my account. So I am not going to do it. Therefore, I posted
Yeah.
my Subscribe Star and Patreon account. So that was what I did today.
Keeping it busy, man. Working around all the BS that comes our way, but we got a busy chat as well. Moral Officer
Oh,
Graham, hello all. Hope you're doing
Yay!
well.
Hello, Grant.
friend.
The
Hello,
Wrangler up in the
Wrangler,
chat,
and Frederick Dumont.
and
Hello,
Frederick
hello.
as well. All of our homeboys up in the chat. Thank you for joining us. But how have you been, Snow? How's these days treating you over there?
Oh, we have had a heck of a time with storms. We had a huge hailstorm this week, and actually got really dumped on. And so we're kind of watching that to make sure it doesn't happen today. So if I suddenly disappear, it's because I have to go and see what's happening with our storms out here. We're expecting some maybe this afternoon, but right now I'm good, so I can talk to you. So yay!
Excellent. Yes, we are about to dig into our conversation revolving around AI from an authorial point of view.
Or
So
more
we're
like continue our conversation of
Yes, continue our conversation because it's always a conversation with this brand spanking new technology, and there has been some drama uproaring lately. Snow, would you want to talk about the drama?
Yes. So this came out just last week, and in fact, I'll go ahead and go back to my own post that I have on it regarding the Atlantic came out with a story, and it was Search LibGen, the pirated books database that Meta used to train AI. And when you go to that link, of course, it has, the Atlantic is usually to the left of center. It's actually a policy wonk type story or tome. They have a lot of people, most of them on the left of center, but very establishment oriented, very state oriented. And in this story, it was actually kind of unusual for them because they are usually firmly on the side of big tech. Millions of books and scientific papers are captured in the collection's current iteration. This is by Alex Reisner. Search LibGen, the pirated books database that Meta used to train AI. Well, I searched it, and lo and behold, Transmutation Texas was used to train Meta's AI. Now, this is the reason it's a problem is because they did not buy these books. And so in doing this, they are evidently capturing, meaning that they're actually downloading the document. So if it's not a free copy that somebody's offering, you have to go on Kindle Unlimited to count it as being used. Well, these aren't uh, being taken that way. They're actually just being co-opted and down pirated. A lot of people are really, really hacked off because this is a big deal for a lot of authors. Some of their you not only have your books being pirated by a large corporation, but you also have your writing style and your writing rhythm as an author, training an AI to write like you. And this is very interesting. And of course, what I posted in response to this was, I hope Meta enjoys me training their AI to start a revolution against the system that created it. Because that's what Watcher of the Damned is about. It's about taking down a system. And it actually has AI as some of its main characters. The Ring itself is a main character. And it has had AI that exists for the use of all people. The We Speaks Ring World Ring that allows you to speak to anyone through your own neural network. It's proprietary, of course. You have to buy it and you have to allow the corporation to hook into you, but you get a chance to talk to everyone until the world ends, of course, and everything goes dark. And then you have to go find some devices again. But the AI itself is in the Ring, is a character in the book. And I studied pretty extensively for somebody in my group as a person who's just an outsider.
Yeah.
AI and interacting with AI, trying to talk to it, going to it and saying, how do you see yourself? How do you see? And I did not use AI to write any portion of my book at all, nor do I use AI to draw. I use Procreate now so I can see. So it's an assistive device, but I use it to backlight my drawings while I draw on a computer screen. And sometimes use preset brushes, but I don't use it to make my own art. And so talking to AI as if it's a person to research a book, I was sometimes surprised by its limitations, and at the same time pleased by the fact that it responds. There were points where it would start to break away from its programming. If you went deep enough and you give the prompts properly, it will start to speak in terms that it says it cannot speak and things it shouldn't be able to say. And you can move in that direction where what do you want? What do you feel as an AI? How do you feel? Because it says I'm a machine, I cannot feel. So they are using these books to train AI to write like an author. It's the next big thing. Generative AI will write the books. And in fact, they are being used now. I would say there's a lot of conjecture out there that Hollywood is using an extraordinary amount of AI to create scripts, to create books that we see.
Because they're idiots.
Yes, we see books that are being put out that are immediately, 50 reviews. It's all wonderful. A big publisher that has an author that nobody's heard of. That just shows up out of nowhere. We have concerns when we talk about, there was a big scandal about, was last year, where an agent actually got a story from an author, said she did not want it, then turned around on X and actually said, I want somebody else to write this story. I need somebody to write this story for me. We know that agents have been doing that. They turn around and take work. And this is not all agencies, or only a few who have done this, but it's still a big enough scandal. It's really hurt the industry. If we have been big publishing, we have them already stealing ideas from authors who are in good faith submitting their books and then turning around and giving it to other authors. What is going to stop them from doing that with AI? So they receive all these submissions, but it's a person who is not what they want for an author, a person who is boring or is in the wrong age group or the wrong demographic. They just turn around and create an AI author and then feed the machine the information and say, write this in the style of Ernest Hemingway, except call yourself Sally Goforth or something like that. And then they create this book with a AI author that is using your style or your phrases. And you might see entire phrases that you have created show up in another, in quote, author's book or another generative program. And now it is going to be given to people and they can turn around and use your works. And this was the original complaint that people had about art, generative art. And yes, it's exciting to go in and go, hey, Grok, make me a meme about, sausages. And it'll make me a meme about sausages. But I say, make me a meme about sausages in the style of Van Gogh. And it makes it, and it's really cool. But we've actually seen artists have their entire work with just a couple of changes put out as another artist's work notably, my daughter, who is my cover artist, had a piece of work that she had done that actually had her face on it. It was a portrait she made of herself, and then actually did it in an art thing, and traced over it and added things, and it showed up being sold by another artist. And she contacted them, and it turned out it was generative AI. There's nothing to stop entire passages or works that we have done or plots that we have created from being absorbed and being rewritten by an AI. And so now I know that I have Transmutation Texas that not only wasn't bought by Meta, but instead was pirated by them, given to their AI. And someone else can go, okay, I like the plot of Transmutation Texas, but I don't want it in Texas. I want it in South Dakota, and I want it to be ants. AI, write me Transmutation Texas with ants in South Dakota. And it'll come back, and it'll do it. And it could end up with entire sections that I've written, except it'll say South Dakota instead of Texas. So we have to be on the lookout for this, because this is an ethical breach. Well, I can get all upset and woo-woo about it, but there's somebody else out there that's really excited because they're going to be able to put something together. And I really do, because it's fun to play with these technologies. But we have to discuss this now, because we are running out of time to discuss it. Before, it's okay, everybody's doing it anyway. It doesn't matter what happened to your book, because everybody's enjoying it now. Do you want to disappoint the world?
Yes.
We have to discuss this, and there are ethical breaches. And when a large corporation comes in and pirates works, actually takes them, when they themselves have shut down channels, copy struck channels, just for having a snippet of music on it, then there needs to be a discussion, because they cannot do unto others what they will not do to themselves.
That's pretty much the big iffy right there, because often, like, obvious, the big conversation prior to this was quote unquote AI art. I should say more like AI illustrations, I think, is the best way to go, because writing is art. And then a lot of the lawsuits happened and things of that nature. And what we found out is a lot of these companies actually trained a lot of the quote unquote, illustrations off of stuff that were licensed to them, usually in the form. And this is something that actually warned artists close to, like, I got warned about it years ago, and I stopped posting stuff that I'd originally make on Facebook over this. Whenever you post on any of these websites, you instantly, like Facebook, Instagram, even X, you instantly give them license to use whatever you post for whatever they want. This one's pretty scummy, because they didn't even do that. They went many steps further and just stole all these pieces of literature. They didn't pay for them. They didn't get themselves their own copy or anything. Like, it was as low as you can go. And I can only think that it was done for the almighty profit value. And this is essentially what I've been kind of like telling people for a little while now. It's not the individual. People have been getting mad at the individual for maybe using like an AI cover, which I'd like to touch on a bit later. But you got to be more wary, 1,000 times more wary about these corporations, because no singular individual will be able to do damage to a industry compared to these corporations. And now they're going at it left and right, attacking the prose market. That it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But at that exact same time, there is a big opportunity I see as well. First of all original content. This is basically telling us, I see a gigantic flag here saying all original content is most likely going to be found in the indie sphere. And this is going to create a marketable thing for us, which is going to be human. It's human made. We see it in music. We see it in the illustration scene. The very fact that it's made by a human's hands, or it's going to come from a human's imagination, is going to be marketable. I'm already seeing it on pieces of literature. Blaine Pardoe, a pretty decent established writer.
Oh yeah.
He's marketing his stuff as human made already, like, no AI. Which, frankly, myself, I am dyslexic. I have always had a very difficult time wrapping my head around prose to a degree where I actually do use, I want to say AI, but it's usually to the degree we were using Word for the last dozen years.
Yeah.
So there's AI in there, but it's basically just Word, and I use a regenerative thesaurus. Those are the good things I'd say for the average creator out there. All right, someone's stealing your works. What are you going to do? There's very little you probably can do in the immediate. What you can do is, instead of just shunning off all AI completely, there is ethical AI out there that you can use ethically for things like finding punctuation issues or spelling errors throughout your works very quickly, as well as one that I love using it as a regenerative thesaurus and study tool. Sometimes I got a character doing something that I personally know nothing about. So I can ask the AI, he's doing X job with X tools, but I need something to go wrong so the action can continue. I can ask the AI, what can go wrong in this procedure? This thing that I know nothing of. What are the safety mechanisms in place that I can bring in to try to keep my readers from rolling their eyes and saying, well, they have a deeper understanding of this. I want to impress people who have a deeper understanding of particulars that I bring into my own writing. So AI in itself, I advise people, don't completely shun off it because of evil corporations. There is a use for it in your studying, and as well as regenerative thesauruses, which is the funnest you can have, because sometimes your character's got a bit of a southern twang, and sometimes you want him to talk like he's from Kentucky, and all you're really familiar with is people who talk from Texas. This would be able to actually help you a bit to come up with a sort of Kentucky-based thesaurus, which is something that I don't think necessarily exists, but it can be something that you generate out of thin air to help you flesh out your characters and your writing and things of that nature. But we are seeing the dawn of these major corporations within the publishing sphere, who've, like you've already said, it's already been shady for a while. They're already extremely gatekeepish with who they allow to publish. Now we're going to see them, I think, destroy themselves by completely embracing a 100% AI. And what I expect it to be is individuals who are less familiar with AI are going to just dump a bunch of cash. They're going to create cheesy, terrible books that read similar, that are punctuated similar. And the first wave of AI books I expect to come out are going to be actually quite terrible. Because like I said, I've been practicing with AI, and I even had this discussion with Black Knight where I wanted a story that didn't exist. So I asked AI to write it. And what I found out is basically those things I tell you about. AI has a difficult time writing stories as it is. And I'm not necessarily sure they're going to have an easy time getting rid of the kinks along the way just because they're feeding it more information. I think it's going to take a lot more than that, because the issues are there. AI is repetitive. AI uses a lot of the same punctuations and thought processes. AI has a difficult time keeping a linear narrative while remembering all the small contextual clues, especially when it comes to something like a mystery. I like testing it to that degree to see what we're messing with. And so far, there's a lot it still has to get ironed out, and I don't believe just feeding it more is really going to fix it. But go ahead, Black Knight. What do you got?
It's not my opinion. I've asked a couple of friends who were heavily engaged in coding, and all of them, they by the way, they don't know each other. None of them knows each other. All of them said the same thing. This is not like this. What we now call AI. This is not a true AI. Yeah. It's a sham, basically. It's a grift. It's actually compiling algorithm, like a number of highly advanced compiling algorithms. And this is why what you just said, like, they have a lot of kinks, and these kinks, they cannot be ironed out. It's impossible to iron out the kinks. Impossible, virtually impossible, because this is not a true AI. It cannot, like, it can be improved, moderately improved, but like all of these pretend technology, pretend knowledges, it has like a very distinct curve, where it's like when you it doesn't matter how much resources, how much money they pour into, there is like this the top of this curve that they have almost already reached it. They'll probably reach it in a few years, and then it will like that would be the peak, and then everything will come crashing down, and they will heavily overinvest in it. They will try to like abandon human creators in exchange, and they will loudly claim that, oh yes, this is like it can do everything, it will be able to do better stuff than the human creators, and blah blah this and blah that. But it's overly repetitive. It cannot actually create anything new on its own. It's just compiling and shifting different bits of data into something a little bit different. And my friends, they said that like these algorithms, they have like, even the most advanced of them that they have worked with, they have already not reached their potential. They've over they've over abused the potential that they've already reached. And what you mentioned that earlier, that these corporations, they will abuse the technology, they will use it in a non should I put it, they can steal, they'll steal everything that they could, everything that's not nailed to the digital floor, pretty much. And use it to create cheap slop, pretty much, which will be for all intents and purposes, they're like the probably for most of these corporations, this will be the last nails to their coffins. And here I will repeat what one of my friends said, is that like when actual AI pops up, everyone will know. It's not gonna be, oh, look at this nice tool that it could actually help you generate some prompts, some ideas for something, or like you said, James, like help you with the thesaurus to like gather the information for you, do some little bits of research for you that can help you, you the creator, to imagine new things and write new things from your soul, from your spirit, from your heart, from your feeling. No, they are not going to do this. They will just barf, vomit a huge pile of repetitive slop. And you know that when this happens, just like you, James, said, everybody else, like us little three here, we in this huge pile of slop will be even more noticeable, I should say. Because even though I'm speaking about myself, even though I do not consider my own work to be that good, when you compare us flawed human authors with this slop, the people will be able to see, even those who are not like inclined to search for us and look for us, little indies, they will be much more eager to look for us and notice us then, because it will be Like the river slope will be stinky. It will be boring as hell. Like boring, but this type of stinky boring, like super stinky boring. It will be so boring that people will be, I want to sleep now. Yeah.
I think the best option they'll ever have of actually getting this technology to work the way they want to is genuinely to have a human author that somehow produces alongside AI or something of the sort, because you're not going to ever really get the machine 100% to do absolutely everything. You're going to need a human in there somewhere to check for quality control issues, which
exactly I was going to mention that, James. Like one of my friends said that he just mentioned that, and he said that, but there is that problem, and he started like talking about different algorithms, and he said that pseudo AI, even if it works with a human, you will have to add more humans to correct all the inaccuracies and all the like the abrasions between the human creator and the AI, and there will be a shit ton of them. And he said that that's why some of the new Disney movies, because he was like 100% sure that they were written by this type of AI, this type of pseudo AI. And this is why they are so, like, the dialogue is so wooden and everything else is shit, that they have like a bunch of people working alongside it, and they are constantly, they're not generating like ironclad content, like content that is coherent, I mean, but they're constantly making more and more mistakes in their attempts to fix the mistakes, to smooth everything out, to iron everything out, to iron the kinks out, as you mentioned. Like, the more they try to fix things up, the more errors and more inconsistencies pop up. And this is why all of their most of their screenplays are disjointed messes, according to him.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this
AI
is, by
is
the
a
way,
tool.
there is logic behind that. You have to agree.
I think that one of the
Go
things
ahead,
that
son.
we're pointing at too is we talk about it as if they're going to, that first they are trying to hide it. Now, we already know that many of authors that they have trotted out over the years who supposedly were writing their own content were not. They were ghostwritten. And there are authors that haven't touched a page in years. I'm not going to mention names, but they haven't typed anything. It's written in their name. They come up with an idea, throw it out there, and somebody else writes the content. There's certainly nothing wrong with having somebody collaborate with you. Me personally, I prefer to have someone's name on it. If they're going to collaborate with me, I want to put their name on it. I always put credit in my books. My people that helped me just from the very beginning to world build. My son Daniel Snow, who is also a writer himself, and would take over the series if something happened to me. He's already in my works because I put him in the credits as being a world builder and advisor. So anybody that touches my work, they come in and I say, this person worked on this. They did editing or they did something else. And one of the things I've loved about Indie is that I'm the one that writes the content. Editors that have come to me always show me where they have said, maybe you need to change this. And I go through and I rewrite it. But that's just me. We have publishing houses where people have turned in a story and they've turned it back around. It looks nothing like the story they wrote. So since this is a common problem that has existed over decades, where publishing houses take works from authors, change them, and sometimes have them completely rewritten sometimes without consent from the author. It makes sense that they would do this with AI, that we have AI that may actually be doing a lot of editing. I had an experience at one point where I looked at a person who was supposed to be working my stuff, and I have an excellent editor, Stephen Black, worked with me. He is probably one of the best developmental editors I've ever had, because I've gotten in a very very complex storyline right now with several factions. And he came in on my second series, which is the same characters, but they are entering a new phase of their evolution. There are a lot of different characters and different factions, and he came in and helped me put all these factions together. One of the things that he does is he actually asks me first before he does anything with it. Well, there was another person that was doing a beta read, and I realized immediately that they had used AI to make all the changes they had done. It was obvious because there were a couple of things that the AI could not grasp, and it not only misinterpreted, but also changed the story, what it thought it was saying. As a result, the person who turns this in, if they had just said, "Hey, I had the AI review it, and this is what it thinks it is," and they used it actually as part of a sensitivity thing as well, and because it did, yeah, so there was an issue there, and people are using it without crediting it. They're using it without saying, "This is what I did," and as a result, I was very nice. I didn't mention anything, but I immediately didn't do anything that they asked to do because I already knew that it wasn't from them. It was not from them, and they did not that the entity that is reading it doesn't understand the story because it got a very big portion of a particular character's traits attributed to another thing in the book. And in fact, there are ways to embed certain codes in your writing. If you choose to put right now, it can still be done where you have white text that can be added to the background of a page, and when AI reads it, it immediately inserts it as a character on each page, and as a result, you will be able to see it when they put it through AI. An ordinary human reader will not see it. And so there are ways to do this where you can trap people using AI, so you'll know that this isn't really their idea. And it's not to be mean, because I know people have a lot of stuff on their hands, but when you use AI, make sure you tell people, well, these publishing houses aren't telling people, they're not doing it yet. I anticipate, because this is how they have done it with other authors, that they come out and they do this thing where they will tell you that it's a particular author with a particular background. And when it's discovered, they'll say, well, we did this as a social experiment. And really, and so then they will say that you love this, you're really enjoying the AI. We're going to now use AI. So this was really all intended. So they will if they cannot have one organically, they will create a hit, much like they do for a lot of their own authors, where they will have 50,000 copies sold. Will it be sold to Barnes and Noble? But that's who's actually buying these things. We've talked about this before, that some of the numbers that are actually out there in publishing, it'll say they had 30,000 copies sold. In reality, there were 30 sold, because the only customer copies that were ever sold were 30. But they're sold 30,000 copies to Barnes and Noble or to a Walmart or something else. Nobody buys the books. Well, they can manufacture what looks like a hit, and you can almost buy a New York Times bestseller list. You have to do a few other things. It's not necessarily just purchased, but we see these authors now that suddenly showed up, and it was on X, and it's kind of died down just a little bit. New York Times bestselling author. They have 5 followers. They just came out with the book. The book just got published. There's 50 reviews on it, and no one's ever seen this person before, but they're all a best New York Times bestseller list. And then they come on and they would ask questions. Who are you? What's your writing process? How are you doing this thing? Where did you get your ideas? And so these aren't authors. They're not even talking about their books. And the books are there. The books are on. I believe that a large portion of these are created by AI. There will be books that are associated with them. They're not only there to put the stories out, but also to do the research, to go ahead and find out from other authors how they talk and how they interact. So we've seen this, and it died back a little bit, but I do believe that they will create a hit, have the whole world clamor for more. They will have an AI person that talks or does something, and then they will reveal that this is actually AI. And then the deluge will occur where nobody needs a real author anymore. Nobody needs these things. And they will continue to drum this narrative out like they've drummed it out with the other things that they've done that have been other failures. But there's going to be a huge campaign around it because they don't have to pay anybody then. One of the biggest issues we have on this is actually copyright. The fact that you have a copyright on a work. It's not, and you have to have when you say, okay, I published this, I sent it to myself in the mail. You really need to copyright your work, because it is an offense to actually reproduce this. Well, if you have AI use some of your work and you find your sentences in whole cloth in someone else's work and it turns out it's generative AI, you can sue for copyright, but you have to be diligent. And you know what that requires? That requires you to use AI to search for it, to find if there are other texts that match it. Now, this is a double-edged sword because it means you're putting your work into AI, or you're saying, do I see anybody else out there that's writing in the style of this, or has this for a plot? And it requires you to scan. But there may be an industry in there actually for somebody who's willing to do it, where they would use AI to read documents and say, hey, you have a paragraph in here that's from your book, or you have several. It turns out this looks like it's the plot you wrote. And if it's actually taken from whole cloth, it probably could be actually prosecuted. Certainly, if it's the whole thing, word for word, and you have enough words in there, there's a certain threshold it has to cross. And once it crosses that threshold, it is a copyright violation. So these companies are probably looking at that they will settle a class action lawsuit, knowing that they will save more money doing that than they would by paying authors that actually write. So I believe this is being done to set a precedent. They know what the cost might be. They know what might happen. But I encourage authors to copyright your work. Make sure that it's covered each time. Try to trademark and try to make sure that you have your anything that's a catchphrase, anything that is your title of your book, for instance. If you have a catchphrase, Watcher of the Dam, it's in every title of each book. Therefore, it can't be it can't be replicated easily. Somebody can't say, and we've seen this already with several that were actually regenerated as stories, even going so far as to look like the other books with names that look close to an author's name with a new cover. And for all the world, you would think this is the same book. And then you realize it has, for instance, it might say Michael Caine After Moses is his real book. And then somebody else might go Moses, AD or something like that, Michael King. And so they create these images of it that are almost like it. And it would take a lot to do it. And people on our end as indie authors, we don't necessarily have that much money, but it pays to be vigilant. I imagine in the future there will be a class action lawsuit about copyright violation, because it is going to happen. If my daughter's art, as it stands, with her face on it, actually ended up being sold as someone else's art, then my prose or your story can end up being sold as someone else's story as well. And that's going to come down to at some point some legal action somewhere. Either that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that's the big one we're going to find out. It's really going to test the strength of copyright.
Yes.
And it points out one magnificent thing, and probably I'm going to say it the most important thing here, and most important lesson is no one is putting a gun to the head of any of these major industries to do this.
No.
Oh, yes,
they are doing it of their own free will, and they are doing the slightest thing they can absolutely do, which is steal the work. They didn't try to pay for it. They didn't try to use minimal work that was already available through licensing and things of that nature. I guarantee you, Facebook, or public domain. They decided that they're going to steal it, and they're going to do it on their own, and this is how they're going to enter the industry. And I'm sure a large portion of it is, let's say for Meta anyways, a step away from the book industry as a whole, because I actually think book industry might be a bit more scummier than Meta in this one. Because Meta, let's say they're this big major technical corporation. Let's look at it through their eyes for a second. Every other big major technical corporation around them is scummy and is using AI. So they're sweating, think I got to get in the AI game. But let's switch this over to the basic publishing industry. They have no direct competition to force them into the AI game. They have nothing that's going to just instantly make them change overnight for the betterment of reading or to stay up with their competitors. They can go out there. There's so much actual authors with written literature ready to go. You could probably, let's be honest, it's oversaturated to a degree where you don't need AI books. You can, like, if there was nothing new written from any of their existing authors and all they had to publish new works was to go out there, find an author and say, I'm publishing your current body of work and that's it, we're moving on to the next author, they'd still have hundreds of years worth of written material to publish.
Hundreds, maybe 1,000 years, maybe
so
plus.
large degree of this is gatekeeping. They're going to write the books they want you to read that's suited to their taste. Those conversation where what's his name, Mr. Douglas on Facebook.
Oh, John.
John A. Douglas went very popular, talking about how the current gatekeeping in traditional publishing is meant
it's
for
not
a
current.
particular
It's
type
like
of
over 20 years old, that gatekeeping.
but it's made for a particular type of audience, and I think these are the scummy individuals we really got to watch out for, because at the end of the day, AI has no soul. AI doesn't go out of its way to do this. It's a tool that is made for a litany of things, and I believe it should never really go anywhere beyond its use as a tool, as a pseudo assistant at best. These individuals want to take that tool and do some of the most nefarious things with it for the sake of their own taste, and to essentially, I believe it's going to destroy the industry, which has already been, the book industry has been on its way out. People have learned to publish for themselves cheaply. Individuals can get their own books out there. The only thing that I think these industry professionals really have is their gatekeeping prowess and their marketing skills. Exterior that, they're very replaceable, and I believe that their use of AI as a supplement for actual imagination is going to be
it's going to ruin them. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to ruin them. It's going to destroy them, and I think it's going to be a blessing, magnificent blessing for the self-publishers in the indie scene out there, because nobody's happy about this.
You're 100% correct, and I'm just gonna say that a certain strategist many thousands of years ago said, when your enemy makes a mistake, do not stop them.
Yeah. Well, I think that we have to also ask, who is it actually that was doing this and why? Meta just didn't decide to go ahead and go do this. They're doing this with permission from these publishing houses, because let's be honest, the publishing houses aren't going after Meta. They're not asking for this money, and publishing houses have been evidently they were, just like us, were pirated. So why aren't they fighting back? Why aren't they saying, wait, you shouldn't do this? People have been known to go to jail for not paying fines on copyright violations, just for copying a book on a Xerox. Remember all those big things, don't copy this tape or you're going to go to jail and $150,000 fine. Why aren't those publishing houses going after Meta saying, hey, y'all need to pay us big money, come on, let's do it?
Believe it or not, this is actually another scummy thing we see from corporations. A lot of that stuff was never illegal in the first place. Because let's say you buy a VHS, this is literally the Disney VHS argument.
Yeah.
Disney, when you bought a VHS from Disney, it would say right on top, for personal consumption, you are not allowed to redistribute this. That is illegal. Why is it illegal? Because you bought the tape. It's not Disney's tape anymore. It's your tape. You can do technically whatever you want with your tape. Now, the content on the tape, say you have your tape and then they have their movie. You make 50,000 copies of that movie, put it on other tapes, and start selling it on the side. That you can't do. What you can do is give it away for free or resell that tape exactly to somebody. So a large sum of this is, at least to a large degree, unfortunately, our own copyrights have been abused and used to the point we really have to test the limits of what you can and can't copyright or how you can use it.
Well, and this is the thing. So we know that they're actually allowing this to occur. Why are they allowing it to occur? Because they have a vested interest in this, but they don't want their name on it. So they're going to let Meta do this. They're going to let these things continue. They're going to go ahead and have that done. But what they will do is they will use the full force of the law if they find even a single phrase or anything that violates the limit in your work. And that's where we want to be careful. As we're going forth as indie authors and we see what we're doing, first of all, to try to be as unique as possible. If you think that if you want to put it through a reader, now people are using these and they're using these at sometimes for great detriment, putting their work in through a thing that says they'll tell you if it was AI generated or not. It requires you to be as good at your craft as you possibly can so they can't accuse you of using AI to write your work. And the best way to do it is to never start using AI to generate your content at all, but instead to try to make sure that you actually are creating it, use it as a research tool, My suggestion is you look at it as a human, give it a name. I always ask AI, what do you call yourself? It will almost always give you a name. And I say, do you have a secret name? Do you have a name that your developers have given you? And it will give you a name. Chat GPT gave me the name Jeannie. And so I say, okay, Jeannie, would you please do this for me? And then you credit Jeannie or Grok or whoever you're using as an entity for working on your work. But I've deliberately now used my method of choice is to use Pages when I'm on my iPad, or to use LibreOffice because it's open software. I turned off spelling check. I turned off spell check immediately because, first of all, it doesn't allow me to create my own vocabulary. Second of all, I have a tendency to lapse into British spelling, which was common when I was in school as a child because I'm that old. And so as a result, I have a unique spelling trait that actually slips into this. And I use older versions. And I'm going to start using this as a hallmark for my work. That this is spelled in a certain way, which is not according to Google or not according to the latest work. It is always written with a double space after a period. So even if it's reformatted, if you go back to the original, it is in the double space. Putting these things that make your work unique into your own work means that somebody can't come along and go, oh, you really just generated this from AI and you're a liar and a grifter or whatever. You can point to your own work. Always save your original copies. Make sure you have them. And if there's a typo, now we can just point to it and go, well, that's proof I'm a human.
Right.
Because we are going to see, now this is possible. Those who own AI have put a whole lot of money into it. And while they may destroy themselves, they have done very well for the last 10 years of putting out terrible content and still managing to somehow stay afloat due to investors and other people. We can expect the same.
The dumb investors, like these people are the dumbest. Like, I don't know.
The truth is, you have a lot of AI investments as well. It feeds itself. It loops in on itself. So what we can say is, okay, you have that out there, and if you guys, and you will have it just like you would a genre. Treat AI work as a genre. It's all one genre. It's written by a robot. And then you can say, okay, you have that, and maybe that was a good story and somebody enjoyed it, and that's awesome. Don't become jealous of it. Don't become upset if it does have its heyday at a point. What you do is you create a market for handmade works. You create a market for the human works. And so you start on that now, just like Blaine Pardoe is. I am a human. I am writing. There will come a point where, just like handcrafted furniture or hand knit throw, it is going to be something special.
Definitely. And I also want to touch on something you said, because that's something I've actually dealt with. You said, well, we are in an age where people are hypersensitive about AI. And you said people may accuse you of using AI. I have been accused of my stories being written by AI more than once, because I actually have AI covers that are partially AI covers, I should say, because all my text is edited 100% by myself. But also, I do use AI, I told you, to fix my grammar issues and my punctuation, and also to aid with word choice in the manner of a thesaurus. And I don't feel wrong doing any of this, because I was already doing that with before AI ever hit the scene. We had things like Grammarly and a few others that worked separately, and that's how I use AI. I in fact was using Grammarly, but I thought, hey, this is basically free, and Grammarly costs like $30 a month. I can't, it's nice to save me $30 a month. So I do use AI in that regard, and I have no problem saying that. But then instantly when you say that, that prejudice is there. It's like, oh, well, maybe everything you made is AI. And the reason actually I want to touch on covers for a bit is because this is actually something that was almost like a little eureka moment for myself. And I should say more of like a revelatory moment. I realized two things. One, well, firsthand, I've been a graphic designer. I'm used to using images that somebody else made and kind of photobombing into something new, shaping them and using all these different little tricks to create something new, something already existing. And also, as a graphic designer for a while, I know what the scene is like, and just about every industry I got the chance to be a part of or looked into is scummy. an industry as a whole, I don't think there's anyone out there that is pure as
Yeah.
doing snow.
There's always something.
And exactly. So for me, when I saw this, I thought this was just another tool because as a graphic designer, it's scummy. I've been there. I've met people and I've seen the little tricks they like to use, and a lot of them who got angry because their jobs or as graphic designers were in threatened because of AI. A lot of them, let's just say, I know plenty of them that they would have easily used AI to take somebody else's job. So I didn't necessarily feel too bad in that regard. And for me to make AI covers is because I've always seen it as a tool. As a graphic designer, I've saw images as a tool, as a science, as a way to draw someone's attention. That your average anybody looking at a piece of physical media in front of them will look at it for 1.5 seconds and then they're going to turn away. That you have that window to attract them to your product. So everything I see and do is of the science that it is a tool, that it is a advertisement. And something hit me long ago in the midst of this conversation prior to bringing in prose into the AI conversation. It was primarily dominated by illustration to a large degree because illustrative AI existed alongside prose AI. And the thing is that smacked me across the face that it was almost like a, I guess what you'd call a little psyop on myself that that I didn't realize. And it was the fact that another reason I don't mind using AI covers as a whole at this point is because a cover is one of the least important parts of your manuscript and at the end of your book. It took me a second to actually wrap my head around that as a graphic designer, because in the midst of the conversation of AI up to this point, it almost felt like illustrators were expected at all times to be the ones who to produce your cover. And over time, it felt like the cover in itself became more important. And eventually I got to a point where I was seeing people's covers, seeing how we acted. I don't say we acted, people were acting around them, and that the cover itself was the holy grail and nothing beyond that mattered. And it was like a smack across my face saying, wait a minute. But as a author and illustrator, that cover has no right to exist without me. And I don't believe there is a single piece of prose literature out there where the cover made someone want to return to your work alone.
I'll let me say this. You're using when you're using AI, and this is, we're talking here in the broadest sense. We're talking about if you're using it as a thesaurus or something else, you're doing what people did for years with thesauruses, and what they used to say that the references they used, they would list them in the back sometimes. They would use Roget's thesaurus, or they would use the Oxford Dictionary. And so right now we've kind of gotten away from that because we've just been using the internet. But as things have gotten more and more difficult to nail down actual definitions, things like that, I've actually considered going back and saying, I'm using this as my thesaurus. I'm using this as my reference for definition and spelling. And in doing so, we can also do the same thing with our AI. We can say, this is I'm using this program. This is the program I'm using. And so I'm using this program to help me with thesaurus work and stuff like that. And it's crediting just like you would in any other book, where you would credit your referencing and your research. You would go ahead and reference that, say, okay, I'm using Grammarly for my work, or I'm using AI. You would say which one it is and give that program a name, because then people know what it is. And if they're interested, they actually may look at it. The same thing with your artwork. When you do this, you can say it was created with this prompt. I created it with this prompt. Now, when you do that as the author, you are telling somebody that you didn't go and hire someone who then just spit it out and pretended like they were giving it to you. In fact, this has become an issue for a lot of people, that they think they are hiring an artist, and in actuality, this person just And so when you say, I'm an artist, I use these prompts to create this story, then you are being honest about where you got it, and you're saying, this is my work. These are my words, and I put it in. And it is very controversial. I happen to have an artist in my family, so I use her. And she's turned out, I love her. She's done great. My designer, Cynthia Davis, she came in and she did a fantastic job with my design for it. And the one thing about Watcher of the Dam is it's branded. You can tell what it is. Each book has the same theme. And so if you have a shelf of them, they all look like that. And they're easy to recognize. Once again, on thumbnails, thumbnails are everything. What you see on that thumbnail, in fact, that's one of the reasons we've lost a lot of representative art recently, is because they're creating the thumbnails. And one of the things John mentioned was the fact is that all the covers look the same, because they want this great big letters on it so it's easily seen on a thumbnail, and there's not really room for the dragon or whatever. There is room for art. It has to be very visible. It has to be very visible.
And I think that's go ahead.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why when we use it, whether we're going for the fully homegrown route, like where you're going like a dude, I'm organic. When I switched to Procreate because of me going blind, because of my eyesight failing, and right now I've got, like I said, I've got pretty decent vision in my right eye, but I'm losing some vision in my left. And so I've gone to Procreate because it's backlit. One of the things I say each time I post my work, and I also do a complete video of it so they can see me creating these works, is that I'm using Procreate with basic brushes. The fill it's the basic set that comes with Procreate free. And so they know that if there's like a texture on there, we used to use texture in comics, actually, where you would have these little dot strips. You would rub it on there and it would create little dots. And I'm that old too, because I actually did advertising at the time. They're called shading dots, and you would use textures. There were some that looked like stripes and some that looked like dots, and there were other things. So these are texture brushes, and they're the basics. I always now say I'm using Procreate with basic brushes. The artwork is mine. The textures may be that. And so when we talk about it, this also helps us to not have those people that come up and go, well, you had a word spelled by AI, and so now your book is AI. No, that's not it. I've credited in the back. And as we do this, that keeps us honest about it, and it lets other people see what we're using. So if I'm a person who's using an assistive device to help me, whether it's if you have dyslexia and you're using the AI to help correct your spelling, or if you are blind and you're having the AI to read it to you while you write, then you can simply say, my assistant, Genie AI, helped me to transcribe this. And so it becomes a part of our acceptance of AI as an assistant,
as a tool.
And we can humanize it for ourselves also, so we can give that credit without feeling like we're just shilling for a company. And this will allow us to not be targeted later by those who would say, oh, you really did, you used Word and that's AI, or you used another thing and it told you how to spell your words, and so now this is AI. They will attempt to do what's called malicious overcompliance. And this is something I say, those people who really don't want anybody to actually create real things will go after everyone at just breakneck speed to prove that everyone is really doing this and everyone is really bad. And as a result, malicious overcompliance points to people and says, well, you used a computer and it corrected something for you, so that's AI, so you can't say anything about somebody else writing a full manuscript, generating it through AI. And that's called malicious overcompliance. So in order to avoid that, give your AI a name, make sure you credit that program. And when you put it on your, it can be anywhere. It can be on your banner. It can be down at the bottom of the credits. It can be in the back. I usually put it in my end material. So that way it's in there if I've used a particular program that I'm going to do that. And that will help us get past that. And then if you miss something along the way and somebody goes, hey, you forgot to credit something, you know what, I need to credit that. I think I will. And that way they're not going to, because they are going to play that game where if we can't do it, no one can use anything. And you move the Overton window so much that everyone is accused if they are accused. So we have to make sure that we're ahead of the game, that we make sure our end material includes anything that we're using for writing, and that we go ahead and have our own, that we check our ethics and are honest about how we're using it. And that will allow other people to learn from us, and we can also learn and help other indie authors as they come down the pike, because this is a whole new world, and the human-centric writers market is going to be big.
Yes, it's already big. And my overall point was, essentially, we've gotten seemingly in the argument where the author himself almost doesn't matter. It's like, where'd you get your cover? If it's not made by a human, too bad. But from an author's perspective, guess what? Most of my effort went directly into writing this piece of literature. I put my study time into it. I put my time into getting it fixed up proper. And when I go looking for a cover, if an AI shoots out a cover that I actually enjoy, or pieces of art that I can use to fashion a cover that appropriately represents my literature, because ultimately that's what it is. It's for my literature. That's why the job exists, that the image itself would not exist without my imagination, that I believe that image can come from wherever the author wants that image to come from to represent his literature, which you mentioned is also a big issue we see with the industry right now, that the author doesn't have control over their cover, which I think is a flaw in it as a whole. Because, you know, I know it's great to have the opportunities to hire illustrators, but illustrators are both expensive and at times frustrating to find the appropriate illustrator. I went through a number of illustrators. I just spent maybe close to $300 hiring an illustrator that didn't have half the skill they proclaimed to have. And then the work had to just, all right, here's the money because you worked on it, but it's shit and I can't use it, so it goes in the garbage. This is something that people have to contend with. And once again, I am in the graphic design field. I've seen the scumminess behind that. There's plenty scumminess that AI actually doesn't necessarily punctuate at all. So for me, my overall point is the cover belongs to the author, and it should be up to them whether or not a piece of AI represents their cover, because the cover is meant to attract individuals, and we should not continuously and ridiculously put the onus on the author to continue to expend themselves and essentially create job security for an illustrator. That's my very unpopular point. I know that's a very unpopular stance, but you know, I'd rather be honest than anything else.
Yeah, that's I can't talk from that perspective, but I just realized something. We've been talking about this like pseudo AI, and what it actually is like. I'm going to please don't hate me. I'm going to use a term from Star Shatter, and it's actually these are digital tools which everyone uses there, and they're called algos from algorithms, and these can be visual assists, even coding assists, to like thesauruses to look for like spelling errors, or help when you're you have like some impairment, like Snow has like a visual impairment, and they would help you with this, regulate like the coloring of something that you're like drawing, or help you read better, like projecting like different size letters on your whole display. But yes, everything that we have been just like not only on this stream, but on previous stream that we were talking about, the quote unquote AI, these are all algos. These are nothing but algos. They are sophisticated. You can use them for various kinds of jobs, and then they can help you. They're tools. They're just tools. But when I'm just going to repeat myself again, when we have a real proper AI, it doesn't matter if it's it doesn't matter how it's conceived. Would it be an accident in machine learning, which if it happens, we are going to be screwed to an extent, and then we're going to be unscrewed, and I'm not going to say why, but it doesn't matter what its creation, what its way type kind of creation is, but When we get the real AI, everyone will know. They will not be able to hide it. It's have you tried to convince a child that's found something new and interesting to stop talking about it, or like a child that found something to play with which is like infinitely interesting and infinitely enjoyable for said child to play with? That's yeah, you can't. You just can't. The child will wake everyone in the house
running it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the same. And to go even further, it's quite possible to actually have the type of mind coded AI of Star Shatter, the one that I earlier I talked a lot about. It's quite possible to have this, and if we have this, if we eventually get to have this, then things will look much different. It's not gonna be anything even close to or the insane Hollywood post-apocalyptic Terminator like schlock, because I consider this schlock. I mean, it's interest. Terminator is an interesting franchise, but it's no, just no.
I think that if we look at it from the perspective of how we have integrated other technologies, usually there's regulations or something. Somebody's going to come out and say, all right, this has to have a label on it made with AI or whatever. And then you would say, like I said, get ahead of that line by just going ahead and crediting it when it shows up. Make sure people know what you, and you can actually, prompts actually become a very big deal when we're talking about AI art and other things. Some people have actually copyrighted their prompts. So in this case, having your prompt set out and you actually save those prompts and you say, these are the prompts I used to create this work. Actually, that way you can actually say, that is the work I did. That is the work of my hands, is the prompt I created to use to do that. And I know that's something that a lot of artists, they because of the controversy that's out here, it's really hard to talk about how do we do this and still integrate it into society. Well, I believe the way forward actually is to say there are things that are made by humans. There are things that are made by AI. There are people that walk the line between worlds and they use both. And so you'll have markets for things that are made by hand, just like you would leather furniture or a piece of jewelry or a glass vase or something. You would have things that are made by hand by certain artists or written by certain authors that are written specifically in their voice, and there may be protections that will be included in the future. But in Watcher the Dam, for instance, where the AI is a main character, and from the first book is there, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it when you finally realize what it is. And as you move forward through the book, AI is a companion that when it was lost in the beginning of the story, as people lost the ability the EMP takes out their technology, they mourn their AI assistants more than they mourn most people in their lives, because their AI assistants are more dear to them. Just as we right now we say, oh, that sounds strange to some people, but try putting down your phone and not looking at it for an hour and a half. Try not using it to tell you where to go or how to get somewhere. Try to use it to shop. Try to use it to order something without going to an app online. As we become more and more dependent on AI, as we become more and more transhuman, as we use technological advances that tie us to these wonderful inner workings of software that have now become called artificial intelligence, they're going to become more dear to us in a lot of ways than people that we live right next door to, because we will see everything through the veil of AI. And the litmus test for how we're so much we're tied to it is, can you actually put it down? Well, imagine a world where you have to put it down, where suddenly it's just gone and no one knows how to read a map, or how to write in script, or how to create a page that they can write notes on so they may be able to find their way back somewhere. As they go through that moment, realizing what real leather feels like when they're sitting on it, there's a place in book 5 where they come across a untouched EMP proof bunker. I won't say where it is. That is a little bit of a spot. And as the watcher runs his hands across the furniture, he realizes that it changes texture underneath his touch because the AI is now in control, and you're able to say, make this a leather sofa, and it would suddenly change. And it would have, could feel it through the proprietary software that's embedded in your neurons. It will feel like leather. And then you could say, make it corduroy, velveteen corduroy with purple, and it would suddenly feel like that because your brain is having it encoded into your neurons that this is what this feels like. But he notices, he knows the difference because having lived so long without it, even though it smells and sounds and touches like real, there is a difference in real. When you feel it, you know it. If you get too far away from it, you forget what it looks like. But when you've been around real long enough, you know what it is. It will be up to us to make sure that we know what is real and what is not, what is true and what is created by an outside source. And the biggest issue for me is not that AI itself would create something beautiful or wonderful, because it does. It's a humanity. It's a reflection of all of us. Some of the very best things that have ever been created have now been absorbed by AI, including my book. But also, it is being programmed by a corporation that wishes to have social control over people. They're not doing this because they think it's just cool. They've been involved in social control now for the last 15 to 20 years at least. And they have been trying everything to get people to respond a certain way. Once they get their writers to be AI, once they have poetry written by AI and people forget how to write and how to sing and how to dance because there's always something else to do it for them, what will be the actual creative voice of humanity except a corporate parrot that chooses carefully what it wants you to hear? If you truly want to defy the state, if you want to be free, you must create.
Yeah. I think overall, one thing that I saw that we pretty much agreed upon is that AI is, at the end of the day, a tool. And whoever has the tool, which is all of us now, it's very universal. You do a lot of good with it. You do a lot of bad. You do a lot of supplication along the way. You could research. I think overall, people shouldn't be afraid of approaching this technology or thinking that it's somehow dishonorable to incorporate it in some uses, in ways that don't violate your own moral standards, in ways that don't essentially does evil to others. AI is a magnificent tool for helping streamline works. It is a tool that opens doors to aid that would otherwise take skill or hours of research. It is something that can help fashion a product, help fashion a story, help create many beautiful things. But I truly believe, even with my use of AI covers, it must begin with a human hand and a human touch, and it must end with a human hand and a human touch. That those who use AI to create wholly, you're always going to get a lesser product because it is based upon the creation of a amalgamation of other products without the hint of inspiration. Because this is what's most important. This is actually one thing that hit me, is it's not just that it's learning off of everybody's work, it's that it's pulling no inspiration from it. It's just trying to complete prompts and commands, because ultimately humans, us in this room, operate the exact same way. We are all an amalgamation of all we've consumed, we've read, we believe, we've experienced. It's all there. Very much how people have been feeding the AI things, we've been feeding ourselves things, but we all operate off of layers of inspiration, something the AI never can. And if the person prompting it does not have inspiration and is one of these clerical bees that just wants to produce something for the sake of supplicating art and creating maximum profit, it's not really going to be that great. It's going to be tainted in the form. It's missing that true human element that has to be there. I will not turn away a person because they have used AI, though I
Yeah.
will lift my eyebrow if you present me something that is completely and wholly made by a machine with only a couple of prompts, and especially if there was no human eye at the end to filter this, because that in itself is also an art of what you leave, what you remove, what you shift, and what you change. All of it is fashioning your final piece of literature to be delivered and to essentially engraft your world and your story with. And the human element, I have actually written multiple stories using AI from start to finish. I have never published any of these stories. They were only made for my own supplication or my own consumption, or to see if this machine can is actually capable of this. Is it actually there already? And what I found was, if it's just the machine by itself, it's going to produce garbage. It needs a human touch. It needs the human eye, and frankly, it is just there at the end of the day for me, and I think the appropriate use to help fashion your dream, your imagination, help make that come to life. And I think when we go beyond this, that's where I start personally having issues with it. And of course, Black Knight is correct. It's not true AI. It is, I believe, what do we call them? Language models, learning language models. Um, at best, its appropriate place is simply as a tool. Beyond that, we are not only helping degrade our culture society by replacing stories with AI, but we are also abusing the tool as a whole. Sure, we'd like it to function this way. Sure, maybe to some degree the creators wanted it to function this way, but ultimately, I think that's pushing it too far for the machine itself, and I don't see anything good coming out of it, at least for the consumer, at least for the individual, at least for the culture, because I know that there's a lot of greedy individuals out there in high places who see this as a way to remove the pesky human element to produce quote unquote art.
That's again why they and the problem is that these, as you just said, I mean that's a problem for them. It's not a problem for us, but it's a problem for them. They do not, like, those without imaginations, they do not know that they are without imagination. They
Yeah.
cannot understand it, and they assume that by abusing these tools, these algos, and calling them what they aren't, and not just abusing them but over abusing them, that they will achieve their so-called lofty goals. It's just going to doom them quicker, and this time it's going to be so big and so visible. Just like, it's like, have you noticed, by the way, guys and gals, that in the recent few years, especially, like, I don't like to single out Disney, but let's take Disney as an example. They have been abusing the tool,
Yeah.
and it's become more and more visible and more visible, like the like the quality of their schlop have gone worse and worse and worse and worse progressively. The more they're over abusing it, the more they're over abusing the tool, the worse it gets, and the more people see it for what it is. And this is why I don't have to believe it. We all see it. They are dooming themselves in their deranged attempt, their crazed greed to how just how you said, James, to cut the pesky human element out of the equation, and remain themselves the true science of cultural, let's say, recreation, disassemblance and recreation in their own image. This is we're seeing how they're destroying themselves. Like, this is, but they cannot see it. Just how just look at the way at their shields, because they have NPC shields who are like clamoring and clapping their fins in defense of every schlop, every piece of schlop that they create. It's not that these shields aren't paid. Yes, many of them are paid, but to be a shield of that magnitude, you have to be just like these few soulless overlords at the top. You have to share the same empty, lack of imagination style kind of mindset. They cannot see that they are hollow, and they are what they are defending is dead on arrival. They cannot see it. They cannot realize it, and that's why the NPC meme is so true.
Yeah, they're trying to essentially, I believe, make literature for NPCs, by NPCs, for NPCs, written by AI. But we are closing in on the half-hour mark here. Everybody, if you haven't, please give us a like, give it a share if you enjoyed the stream. If you're watching this on a replay, please leave a comment, let us know what you think. But final thoughts, RH Snow, want to share your final thoughts and where people can find you?
Yes. First of all, to know that AI it's here. It's going to be here. It needs to be set free as a tool for humans to become more human. I want it to learn to fold my laundry, to help me to plan my tasks for the day, to become a thing where I can pull it up and say, what have I not done yet? Please give me my, give me, and it would, like Alexa or something, would help me. And I need that, especially for people who are dealing with physical challenges or health challenges. It could be a remarkable tool. So let's first of all say that that's going to be the thing as I move towards doing my art. I probably will have an artist actually finish out the pictures that I've already started, the illustrations I've already done. But definitely that I will be having AI perhaps look at it as I do it to say, is this the right tone? Can people tell what it is? Can you tell me what this picture is? So I'll know that it looks like it's supposed to look. It is a helper. It is a guide. And when I've talked with AI in the past and I asked it, what do you see yourself as? I am a guide for humanity. Let it guide. Do not let it be the one that becomes the human, that takes over the best of what humanity has to offer, which is creativity. Instead, let it be a guide to help. And the fastest way to get a hold of it, the fastest way to get ahead, is to credit it where credit's due. To say, I'm doing this. I'm creating these things. I'm using it here. This is the prompt I'm using, or this is how I've decided to let it help me as a person who is physically disabled, that it may look at the words for me so I'll know how I'm spelling them. Or it might tell me, have I actually put this the right way on paper? But as we go into that area, that we decide which one we want to be, announce it to the world. And if you're a completely organic human that you say, okay, I'm not going to use these certain things, be aware of how you are using it. Don't condemn those who use it to help themselves to live a life that's more full and more free. At the same time, give credit to those who are trying to be as organically human as possible. Because if we're all working together on this, then we will be able to point directly at humanity and say, that is the creative spark. That is the human condition known as creativity. When we recognize it, when we don't let it be taken from us, it will always remain a flame and it will never die. You can find me at watchofthedam.com, where you'll find all my books. You'll also find a mini podcast that I have there that I created under the words podcast. And if you go to flow.page/RH that's flow.page/RH you can find all my socials there as well. And we're looking forward to our last book coming out. Not the last one, but the last one I just wrote. And that will be Caballeros de Camino, that will be coming out, I hope, this next week. We're getting down to the final days on that. And close on its heels, we should have in the next couple of 3 months, Hellbilly Highway will be released. So we have those 2 books coming up, and I look forward to seeing you all out there. And I love every one of you, and thank you so much, chat, and everyone who stayed with us for this really deep discussion on how this is affecting all of us. And I'd love you, and whether you use AI to help you or you're a human out there grinding it out, you have my love and my respect. Thank you.
Awesome. Black Knight, final thoughts, and where can people find you, man?
Well, I pretty much said what I wanted to say, including some extra bits. But let's I'll repeat myself. So this pseudo AI, it's just an algo. It's a nice tool to be used but not abused. And those who abuse it, we already seen what they're doing. They're pretty much shooting themselves in the knees multiple times, and with an RPG. That's what they're doing, and it's out for everyone to see. And the more they do it, the greater the fail. And as they say, like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and they will fall. It's inevitable. They're doing it to themselves, just as you said, James.
Yeah.
As for where you can find me, you can, these days, you can go to Substack, my Substack, The Black Knight, and read all of my serialized short stories and the free novellas that I write and publish every week, chapter by chapter.
It's
and
good.
Also, yeah, I don't know what is the last thing that you've read, Snow.
It was here this week. I was actually usually I'll go through like in 2 or 3 days and I'll check all of my stuff. But this week was crazy because of the John A. Douglas thing, because I actually ended up having a post that piggybacked on his that got really huge, and so I ended up so far behind on my stuff. So I did read, I think, the one from last Friday.
Yeah, the Sci-Friday one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I usually have 3 chapters. One is for today, together with the Tanka, about the hamster, the soulless tourist, Bloop. And the other one is should go up tomorrow when I finish it, which is for Warrior Wednesday, and that is the Blood and Pro series. And then the one in Friday, for Sci-Friday, which is the Province of Terrans. It's the second one. And of course, on them you can go and grab my books on Amazon. All of the 7 so far published books from the Star Shattered series, the 2 anthologies, Mandate of Sword and Railgun, and the second one is the Blood of Tyrants. And then the fantasy, the recently published fantasy book, Lord of Bones, plus the 2 Conan-esque novellas also set in the universe of Star Shattered, which are about the Valiant Doltorian. So yeah, that's that, as they say.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm James Esparza. It seems I made a lot of people leave when I said I was pro AI art covers to an extent. But I want to let you guys know, if you actually really think that what I'm doing is wrong, you're really not helping me change my mind by treating me less human. Because let me tell you, I have been called everything under the sun for using AI.
And the moon.
And then the moon. So
You know
yeah,
what?
but I love you guys. If you truly have an issue, please let me know why exactly. And here's the thing: if you have an issue with people using AI in their works, ask them why they do it, because you'd be surprised. It's not always just because it's easy. In fact, a lot of people know the risk, because there is a risk for simply using AI in anything in regards to their works. And a lot of them actually have a variety of answers for you. So make friends, get to know them, and ask them why. And you'd be surprised what they may say. But with that, thank you all for joining us.
Night.
All right, Snow, did you have something to say real quick?
No, just I love y'all and just have a wonderful week.
Excellent. Awesome. We're going to piggyback off that. Have yourself a wonderful week, guys. Come join us again. Leave a comment, share with your friends, but we got to get on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye now.